Hi everyone! Welcome to 2026. I did get a haircut. I had to get it chopped off. Well, I didn't have to, but I figured I would chop it all off and regrow my hair because it was really dry and dead at the ends and really thin from the hard water in the UK. And yeah, it literally was, it felt like straw, my ends. So I cut it all off and got a bob. I also changed my part to the side instead of in the middle. Not that, I mean, it matters because my hair's different now. Anyways, this video is going to be about the books that I read in 2025. So my reading challenge was to read 20 books for the year, and I doubled it and I read 40 books in 2025. So I'm gonna go through the 40 books that I read. I did already make reading a 2025 book video halfway through the year last year, so I will be talking about those books again ever so briefly because they are part of the 40 books that I read. So the first book that I read for 2025 was Flowers for Algernon by Daniel Keyes, and I would recommend this book. This book actually got recommended to me, and so I would also feel comfortable recommending this book to other people. It is a really, well, maybe not so much now, but I remember it was really big on social media as one of the saddest books. To me, it wasn't that sad, but I can see where people are coming from. So Flowers for Algernon, I would recommend to people if they want to read it, and I did enjoy the book. So the next book is The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I really like this book. Highly recommend. Strong recommendation. I feel like a lot of people, like a lot of audiences and a lot of readers, would enjoy the book. I think I've only read 2 books by her, but I'm keen to read all of her other books because the 2 that I have read have been very high. Like, I think I gave this one 4 stars, and then the other one that I read later in the year I gave 5 stars. So, or did I give it 4? 4.5? I'm not sure, but yes, strong recommendation. Next, I read The Nightingale by Kristen Hanna, which was good. It was good. I think I would recommend it, but I would only recommend it to people who are maybe interested in historical fiction, because I can see certain readers not enjoying it because it might be boring almost. But it was a good read and probably a recommendation for specific readers. Next, I read Cleopatra and Frankenstein. This almost doesn't... I feel like I read Cleopatra and Frankenstein ages ago, but I suppose that was a year ago, which is a while ago, but I don't know. I feel like I have it sitting on my bookshelf and I feel like I've had it for ages. Anyways, Cleopatra and Frankenstein by Coco Mellors. I would... If someone said that they have it on their list to read, I would recommend it. But I wouldn't be like, oh my god, you have to read Cleopatra and Frankenstein. Because I don't know.
Bruh.
I don't have a reason why.
Bruh.
But the feeling isn't there. I don't have like a strong feeling to recommend it to people. It definitely was popular when it came out. I remember seeing it in the bookstores, always at like the front table when you entered and like near the register and everything. And there were a lot of the times there were staff recommendations, but I probably would only recommend this if someone had it on their list to read. I'd be like, yeah, it's a good one, you should read it. But not like randomly. Anxious People by Frederick Bachman was not technically a read because I listened to it, but it still counts, I reckon. I wouldn't recommend... I still enjoyed it, but maybe similar to Cleopatra and Frankenstein, I'd only recommend it if it's on your list. Like, it wouldn't come, like, I wouldn't be like, if someone was like, hey, can you recommend me a book? I wouldn't think Anxious People. But I did enjoy it. If it was on your list, you should read it. None of This Is True by Lisa Jewell. I have recommended this to people. I've recommended it to people who are keen on like the mystery thriller genre. Would I recommend it to someone who reads romance? I feel like this one would be an easy recommendation, honestly. Like, to anyone, I would be like, I feel like I'm saying like a lot. Oh, maybe if you need to like get out of a reading slump, I feel like None of This Is True could be a good option. Next, I read Happy Place by Emily Henry. Out of all of the Emily Henry books that I read, it's my least favorite. And I probably wouldn't recommend it if someone was like, which Emily Henry book should I read? I would recommend the other books that I've read by her. Honestly, I'd probably recommend most of these if it's like on your list, but for the purpose of this video, I probably wouldn't recommend Happy Place by Emily Henry, just because for some reason the female character, like, so the main protagonist's name is Harriet, and for some reason I didn't really like the name Harriet.
Oh my god, bro. Oh hell no, man. What the?
Like, when I was reading it, it must have been more so I couldn't relate the character in the book to the name. Like, it just they didn't associate. So yeah, the name thing is kind of a tiny little detail, but it really got to me. And I also just didn't so much enjoy the plot and how the two protagonists, I can't remember if they were fiancés, if they ever got to that point, but they're like ex-partners, and they're in like a really close group of friends, and they're going away on this trip to one of the girls' beach house for the last time, and to avoid ruining the holiday, they pretend to still be together even though they actually hate each other and stuff like that. And I think, from memory, the thing that broke them up was kind of a stupid reason. I was like, what? Why would you break up over that? Anyways, wouldn't recommend. Next, I read I Who Have Never Known Men by Jacqueline Hartman. I can think of people that I have recommended this book to, and I can think of people who I would recommend this book to. So I would recommend it. I would say you should read I Who Have Never Known Men. It's a really interesting concept and take on a hypothetical situation that is large scale, a hypothetical that affects the whole world, and not a hypothetical that only affects a single individual. So, I mean, do I say what it's about? Nah, if you know what it's about, then you know what it's about, and when you know what it's about, then you'll want to read it, because it's an interesting plot, concept, idea to think about. Next, I read Marta by Kaveh Akbar, and I would recommend this. Heavy recommendation, strong recommendation, must read. It's probably, if not my favorite, then one of my favorite books ever, maybe ever. I reckon top 5, maybe even top 3 book. I couldn't name what the other books would be in those top 5, top 3, but I can say that Marta, one of my faves, and I might be biased in recommending it because it's one of my faves, but since it's one of my faves, I would recommend it very strongly to any reader. Well, maybe a reader who, not like a child, I wouldn't recommend it. No, none of these books I would recommend to a child, but I'd recommend it to more of a mature audience. So not like a, not a child, not like a youth, but strong recommendation. Should read, have to read at some point. Next, I read Everything is Tuberculosis by John Green, and I would recommend this book to people who enjoy nonfiction. And also, I think I would only recommend this book to people who enjoy nonfiction specifically on like history, and like maybe have people who have more of like an interest in science and history, as opposed to people who read like self-help books and motivating kind of books, because it's not that kind of nonfiction. It's a very historical kind. So yeah, I would recommend, but only to a specific audience. Next, Angels and Demons by Dan Brown. I would recommend to a specific audience again. I wouldn't hesitate to recommend it to someone who has read the Da Vinci Code, because it was actually the one that came before the Da Vinci Code. I would recommend the Angels and Demons to the same kind of people I would recommend None of This Is True, but not to everyone. Just like people who are interested in like thriller and mystery and action and enjoy the sort of suspense in a book. So, yeah. Next, I read Galatea by Madeline Miller, which is a short story book, very small. Honestly, I wouldn't recommend it. You should just read her other books like Circe or The Song of Achilles. You don't need to bother. If you want to read all of her work, if you're like kind of craving her writing, then give it a read. It's so quick. You could finish in half an hour. But yeah, probably wouldn't recommend. Not in a bad way, just wouldn't recommend because there's other stuff to read. Next, My Dark Vanessa by Kate Elizabeth Russell. I would recommend. This book was actually also recommended to me. It was from my friend from work. She was telling me the plot of the story, and I was like, what? And then when you actually read it and there's all these other details, you're like, what? So I would recommend it. It's a between like a student and teacher relationship. Yeah, it's kind of like a what situation, and frustrating at many points, but like I think about it and I think, yeah, I would recommend it. I would. Next, The Bell Jar by Sylvia Plath. Honestly, I wouldn't recommend. I didn't really enjoy the book as much as I expected to enjoy it. Like, I thought I would, because everyone was saying how good it was, and I guess that's my fault for believing that since everyone else enjoyed it, that means I would have enjoyed it. I like kind of set that expectation, and I probably shouldn't have. It was kind of unfair in the book for me to do that, but I wouldn't recommend it. Next, I read I'm Thinking of Ending Things by Ian Reid, and I would highly recommend this book to people who have watched I'm Thinking of Ending Things film on YouTube by Charlie on Netflix by Charlie Kaufman. And if you enjoyed the film, I would recommend the book even more. And if you watched the film and were confused by it, I would say watch a YouTube explanation video, then read this book. But I wouldn't recommend it to people who haven't watched the film, because I feel like if I hadn't watched the film before I read the book, I'd be like, what is going on? I would be very confused, because even in the film I was like, what is going, like, the film honestly wasn't that good, but then watching a YouTube explanation video and reading this book made me appreciate it more. Like, all of it, just in general, I just appreciated it more, the story and everything. So recommend it only to people who have seen the film. Next, The Tattooist of Auschwitz by Heather Morris. I would recommend this. I remember feeling very fond of the characters and the story, and it was also based on a true story, so that's nice. Not the story's not nice because it's about someone's experience from the Holocaust, but the story has a nice ending, so it leaves you feeling happy for them despite the terrible circumstances. So Then I read Deep Cuts by Holly Brickley. I would recommend this to people who really like music. Like, they're deep in the music rabbit hole of underground artists and music and stuff. So I recommend it. So one of those people that I feel like is a really big music person is my boyfriend, and I recommended this book to him, but he's not much of a reader, so he hasn't finished the book, and I was really keen on him reading it because it's really heavy on the music details, and I feel like he would be able to enjoy that aspect of the book, which I couldn't really enjoy fully because I like music, but I'm not huge into it, so I couldn't really appreciate that aspect. So I would recommend it to people who really like reading and enjoy making music. So next I read Franny and Zooey by J.D. Salinger. Don't recommend. That's it. Funny Story by Emily Henry. Highly recommend. Was a funny story that I enjoyed. Yeah. Funny story. This one I really enjoyed. This one might be my favorite Emily Henry book, if not number 2, my second favorite. So I would highly recommend. You should read. Next, I read The Secret History by Donna Tartt. I would recommend this book to people who are looking for a long read. Like, they want a fat book because it's a fat book, and you kind of have to. I don't know how long it took me. It probably says how long it took me. Did it take me a month or something? No. Oh, no, yeah. No, it took me like a week and a half, 2 weeks. But that's because I was probably reading it constantly. You could, if you have other stuff to do with your life, it would probably maybe take a month or something. Like, if you just read before going to bed. It's a long book. So I would recommend it to people who are patient for a long read, because in the end it pays off. Like, you gotta be there from the start. Like, you just gotta be patient with it, because it's definitely a good payoff by the end. So next I read Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir. Oh my god, this has to be maybe, you know how I said Marta was in my top 5? This is probably top one of the other ones in that top, because I loved this book. I gave it 4 stars for some reason, but honestly, the more I think about it in retrospect, the more that I like it. And so I would be more inclined to give it a 5 star. The only bad thing that I can think about is that it was really like scientific and technical at some points, so it got really confusing. So with that, I'd probably downgrade it to maybe a 4.75, but still, I really enjoyed it anyways. So I would change my rating to 5 stars, and I would highly recommend this book to anyone. Like, everyone should read this book. It's so good. And also, the film's coming out in March 20th, 2026. I'm so excited. It looks so good. I've watched both trailers so many times, but the second trailer especially, the one where they play Champagne Supernova in the background, is actually such a good trailer. If I had to, like, that has to be one of my favorite trailers that I've ever watched. It's so good, and I'm so excited for the film because I love the book so much, but I'm also like trying to not set my expectations too high, because I really like the book, and if I have the same expectations for the film that I have for the book, like, because it's really good, then I might get disappointed that I don't enjoy the film. So I'm trying to lower my expectations, but also I'm still really excited, but I'm lowering my expectations. But I'm really excited. I'm really keen. Next, I read James by Percival Everett. I would recommend, if you have read... Is it Huckleberry Finn? The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn? Yeah! Reimagining of The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn. I would only recommend the book if you've read that book. If not, maybe don't read it. Still good, but yeah. Next, Days at the Murasaki Bookshop by Satoshi Yagisawa. I would not recommend. Low-key, kind of boring at the end, like the second half, which is kind of the part. I mean, you don't really want a boring part in your book, but the ending you'd want to be a little bit exciting so that it stays with the reader. So yeah, the second half of the book just kind of wasn't interesting, and it's a small book, and I think it took me a while to read, or longer than expected, despite being so small, like short. It's 150 page book, and it took me took me 3 days. That's kind of long for me though. Yeah, anyways, I just remember it feeling like it was dragging on, and I was like, when will it end? When will this book end? So, wouldn't recommend. Next, My Year of Rest and Relaxation by Otessa Moshfegh. I would not recommend, unless it's on your list. Next, The Safe Keep by Yale Vander Wooden. I would recommend it if you've read Call Me By Your Name and enjoyed Call Me By Your Name. Because it's not the same, but I feel like the audience who read and enjoyed Call Me By Your Name would enjoy and appreciate The Safe Keep. Yes. Okay, so I think we're getting into. Wait, we've already passed. So the other books, that I haven't talked about, since the what I've read in 2025 so far video, started from Project Hail Mary. So after The Secret History. So yeah, now we're in the territory, in uncharted territories in terms of books that I have spoken about on the internet that I've read for 2025. Okay, so next I began my first reading of the Hunger Games trilogy, recommended by some of the girls in my flat when I was in Norwich, and they said that it's a really good series. And I know it's a really good series because it's big. I just haven't had like the motivation to read it, maybe, or more so the encouragement to read it. Like the YouTubers that I watch don't really talk about it, and other people around me aren't really like, oh, you should read it. So yeah, that's why I didn't really get to it. But when I was there in Norwich, I was looking for something to read, something easy, something that'll like bring me back into the reading, not pull me out of a slump, because I wasn't really in a slump. I just couldn't find the right book to read. So got recommended the Hunger Games trilogy, and I read it. So we've got The Hunger Games, Catching Fire, and Mockingjay by Suzanne Collins, like 3 in a row. And I would highly recommend, yes. You should definitely read The Hunger Games if you haven't read it. Next, I read If We Were Villains by ML Rio, and this one, it's a hesitant recommendation because I really enjoyed the book, but disliked the fact that it was so similar to The Secret History. Like, it's got the same feeling about it. It's shorter, so maybe if you don't feel like you can commit to The Secret History, maybe give If We Were Villains a go, and then if you enjoy that, go on to Secret History. But it's a great book. The only thing that I have with it is that it's so similar to The Secret History. You can't not draw comparisons because they're the same. Not really, but you know. Next, I read People We Meet on Vacation by Emily Henry, and this one I would recommend. The Netflix film actually just came out, and it was pretty good. I watched it with my friend. We both have read the book, and when we were watching the film, we were like, oh, is this in the book? Like, is this scene in the book? So the film definitely added and removed scenes from the book. Did I say that right? The film added and removed scenes from the original, from the book. So we were like, what's going on? But also I kind of understood, because you know, when you adapt a book to a film, you kind of have to adjust things so that it will finish within 2 hours. So I would recommend People We Meet on Vacation, the book. I would recommend that. And also would recommend the film if you enjoy the book. Next, I read Small Boat by Vincent Delacroix. And this was a great read. I really enjoyed it. But when I recommended it to my sister, she didn't even finish the book. She was like, oh, it kind of got boring. And I was like, well, that's interesting because I really liked it. So I hesitate to say it's a recommendation, but I would recommend it hesitantly because I thought it was a great read, and I think it discusses an important matter that people should maybe know about. Then I read Small Things Like These by Claire Keegan. I wouldn't recommend. It just didn't interest me. I finished it, but after reading it, I was like, okay, cool. So I wouldn't recommend. I then read A Short Stay in Hell by Stephen L. Peck. I wouldn't recommend this book, but I want to recommend it because the premise is interesting. It's kind of, maybe if you've read I Who Have Never Known Men, you should read A Short Stay in Hell because I feel like they would have similar audiences. Basically, A Short Stay in Hell is when this guy goes to hell, but a specific kind. I think it implies that there are multiple different hells, and the hell he gets put in is one where you have to find your book that narrates like your whole life story in this huge library. Like it's like an endless library, and you can't die. Like, it's impossible. If you die, then you respawn. So it's interesting, and I want to recommend it, but I don't think it's for everyone. Then I read The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. I wouldn't recommend it. No, don't read it. It's not worth your time. It's not worth your time. Then I read Atmosphere by Taylor Jenkins Reid, and this one is definitely worth your time. You should totally read it. This one, I was not expecting to cry, but I did cry. I was watching one of the YouTubers I watch on YouTube was reading this book, and she was recording herself when she was reading the ending, and she cried, and I was like, I want to experience that. Let me read this book. And then I read it. When I was reading, I was like, oh, I don't think it's gonna get to me, like, emotionally. Like, I don't know if I'm attached to the characters that much. And then it got to the end, and I cried, and then I cried again. Like, I cried, and then it kept going, and then he cried, and then I cried again because of something else. So I would definitely recommend this book. Then I read The Little Liar by Mitch Albom, and I would not recommend this book unless it's on your list. I can see why people rate it so highly because it's a really highly rated book. It's 4.56 average star rating on Goodreads, 99,904 ratings, and 10,328 reviews. So, yeah, I would only recommend it to you if it was already on your list, but I wouldn't go out of my way to be like, you should read this book. Next, I read The Martian by Andy Weir, and it was good. Like, if you enjoyed Project Hail Mary, if I pushed you to read Project Hail Mary and you enjoyed that, then I would be like, you have to read The Martian as well if you haven't read The Martian. Oh, I also watched the film. After I read the book, I was like, oh, I gotta watch the film now. And the film changed a lot of things. So if you watch the film and you like the film, you have to read the book. Like, you have to. You miss out on so much from the film. There's so much more that happens in the book, and it's way more intense, and like, it's just way better. You just have to read the book. Then I read Finding Me by Viola Davis, and I would recommend this. I would. Even though it's non-fic, and I hesitate to recommend non-fiction, because I don't read non-fiction really, and I think I only read 2 non-fiction books this year, this one being one of them, and it was a tough read at some points, honestly. Like, she really lived a life. Well, she's still living a life, but she went through a lot during her younger years. It definitely brings a new perspective to your own position, like to the like things you have access to and the benefits that you get from living in a specific country, or like the kind of family you have. It definitely puts things into perspective. So I would recommend it. Maybe search up the trigger warnings, but it's a really good read. Then I read Sunrise on the Reaping by Suzanne Collins, which is is it the prequel? Wait, why do I not remember what happened? Oh, it's Haymitch's story. If you've read The Hunger Games, I would recommend it. If you haven't, don't read it. Read The Hunger Games first, then read it. Because you will. The story still makes sense on its own, but you don't really get the significance of Haymitch and then the other characters in the book, because it's relevant in the trilogy. Like just maybe read it in the order that the books were released. I reckon it'll be more effective that way. And then the final book, the 40th book that I read for 2026, is Recursion by Blake Crouch. And I would recommend this book for sure if you enjoy action and thriller and mystery and really intense emotions, maybe. If you enjoy Christopher Nolan films, you would enjoy this book. I feel like it's giving Inception in some ways. It's giving Tenet, not really, but I just like that popped into my head, how like you can time travel, like move back, you know what I mean? Like in Tenet, I think that's what happens. Because in Recursion, you basically time travel. Like, it's kind of hard to explain. You just gotta read the book.
Bruh.
But it's like time travel. And the way that the time travel is achieved is like through you extract a memory of a very strong memory that happened in your life. You extract it through thinking of it, and then it like records the nerve reactions, like the thing that happens in your brain when you think about the memory. It has to be a really strong memory though. And then you put yourself in a state where you're like dead, or I think you die, and then the machine will send like energy or like the electrical waves to your dead brain, the brain in your dead body. Oh, it's like that phenomenon that people believe in when you die, and then you get that, like, is it like 7 minutes where you like your whole life flashes in memories and stuff? It's that process. You like think of that, and then when you like die, they then put that memory electrical pattern into your brain during that period, and then you get sent back in time to that memory. If that made any sense. It's really cool though. The book explains it much better than I just did. But I would recommend it if you enjoy action and suspense and all that good stuff. So that was the 40 books that I read for 2025. This year I've set myself a challenge to read 50 books. It is the 23rd of Jan, and so far I've read 0 books. So we will see how I go with this challenge, considering I'm probably going to end the month having read no books. Oh, that's a bit awkward. Anyhow, should I tell you what I'm reading now? Or what I've started? Wait, oh my god. I didn't even mention the books that I didn't read, like that I DNF'd. Do I mention those too? I'm gonna quickly mention those. Hang on. Okay, so these are the books that I DNF'd in 2025, which I then, by consequence, I wouldn't recommend because I didn't even finish them. So I started and didn't finish Orbital by Samantha Harvey. Oh, my camera's gonna die. I started and didn't finish All Fours by Miranda July, Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen, On Earth We're Briefly Gorgeous by Ocean Vuong, and Before the Coffee Gets Cold by Toshizaku Kawaguchi. So, yeah. Wouldn't recommend those books because I didn't even finish them, but maybe I'll give it a go another time. Anyways, my camera's gonna die, so I will see you later. Bye.